Abled does not mean unabled. Disabled does not mean less abled. Good afternoon, everyone. I, Dr. Tanu Kukreja Bhayana, in charge, School of Teacher Education, Home Sterling Global University, welcome you to the closing ceremony of the National Conference on Inclusion in Special Education, Recent Trends and Practices. To grace the occasion, we have amongst us Professor Raj Nehru, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Shri Vishwakarma Skill University of Government of Haryana. Our very own Honorable Chancellor, Dr. Puneet Goyalji, Honorable Pro Chancellor, Dr. Poonam Goyalji, esteemed Vice Chancellor, Dr. N.P. Kaushikji, worthy Pro Vice Chancellor, Dr. Ajay Podarji, deans and in charges of various schools, faculty, students, and dear participants. I extend my warm welcome to all of you. Conference was a huge success as many participants from all over India had joined it. So, to tell you more details about the conference, may I please request Ms. Shikha, Assistant Professor, School of Teacher Education, to read the conference report. Over to you, Shikha.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon to one and all. At the outset, I am very thankful to you, Honorable Chancellor Sir, Honorable Pro Chancellor Ma'am, respectable Vice Chancellor Sir, and respected Pro Vice Chancellor Sir for giving us this opportunity to be a part of this conference. National Conference on Inclusion in Special Education, recent trend and participate and practices was a hug success with 300 registration and more than 30 researchers part- presented their innovative ideas and researches. It began today morning in auspicious presence of Padma Shri Dr. Uma Tuliji, founder Amar Jyoti Charitable Trust, our very own Honorable Chancellor Sir Dr. Puneet Goyalji, Pro Chancellor Dr. Pudam Goyalji, esteemed Vice Chancellor Dr. N.P. Kaushikji, and Pro Vice Chancellor Dr. Ajay Podarji, respected Registrar Dr. Vinod Kumarji, and respected Dr. Somesh Jainji. Post the inauguration ceremony, papers were presented by more than 30 professionals of field. The STEAM session chairs of various sessions were Dr. Sandeep Jain, Joint Secretary, Center of Excellence for Teachers, CBSE, New Delhi. Dr. Shankar Lal Bika, Head and Dean, School of Education, Central University of Punjab, Bhatinda. Dr. Behzad Maqbool, Associate Professor, MIT Institute of Education, MIT University, Noida. Overall, with the guidance and able mentorship of our seniors, conference was a hug success and achieved its objective of beginning a firm for scientists, researchers to contribute significantly and realistically in the society. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Shikha. And now, everyone, the moment of reveal, which all of you were waiting for. So may I please request our Honorable Pro Chancellor, Dr. Poonam Goyalji, to announce the second best paper.
The second best paper award goes to Inclusive Education Trends and Challenges in Koraput district of Odisha in India. Author Mr. Mahendra Kumar Nayak, Research Scholar, OSDU, Haryana. Congratulate to you.
Many congratulations to Mahendra Nayak ji. Thank you
Congratulations,
so
sir.
much, ma'am. Now, may I please request our Honorable Chancellor, Sir Dr. Puneet Goyalji, to announce the first paper.
Best paper one goes to Mr. Sanjay Kumar and Dr. Dinesh Kumar, DSMNR University, Lucknow. Topic is effectiveness of backward changing in improving activities of daily living in adolescents with moderate intellectual disability with associated conditions.
Thank you so much, sir. Congratulations to the winners of first paper. Thank you so much, sir and ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, we have amongst us Professor Raj Nehruji, who is Vice Chancellor Shri Vishwakarma Skill University, Government of Haryana. He's not only a true academician, but also is the youngest founding Vice Chancellor of the country, who left his lucrative corporate career to serve the dream of transforming national skill ecosystem. Sir has played various key roles such as director in the board of Haryana State Electronics Development Corporation, member on formation of implementation plan for National Education Policy 2020. Sir has been a member of Advisory Council of Policy Research Foundation for Life by National Executive Committee of the Foundation and has been former mission director, Haryana Skill Development Mission. There has been playing various key responsibilities as board members and committee members in AICTE, UGC, and at various universities like Guru Jambeshwar University, Hisar, ILM University, YMCA University, etc. Dr. Nehru has been awarded with Innovative Leader Award, Hall of Fame Skills Leadership Award 2020, and has also been honored with the Most Inspiring Vice Chancellor Award. Sir is an active philanthropist and has founded Utsav Foundation, which educates and skills underprivileged children from slums. So there is much more I can speak about you, but that way I would take all the time to listen to you. So may I please request you to address the audience and oblige?
Sure. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. First of all, congratulations to Om Sterling Global University for organizing this very important workshop, a national conference on inclusion in special education. I'm sure I was going through the entire program that you have organized so far, and I think many speakers have spoken about the real issues and challenges in the area of inclusion and its space in the education. It's a big challenge in the country, and I congratulate you for bringing this topic to the light and making a lot of awareness among the people. My special congratulations to the chancellor, vice chancellor, and other dignitaries of this university for picking up this topic and also rewarding people. I was just listening the papers that you have rewarded. This is much required because India is having a very serious challenge of people with special abilities. Uh, I was looking at some data. The country has only 56% of literate population among the people with special abilities, while as the women, it's a little bit old data. I was just trying to correct this. Almost 62% or 60% in male and some 40% in female, which is a big challenge. We have almost 2%, 2.5%, I think, population today in India, student population, which is in the category of special abilities. So when people are in the special categories, one of the common challenge that they face is exclusion. And the reason for their exclusion is because the society has not been largely equipped with the kind of mindset, the kind of attitude, that requires them to appreciate, empathize, and address the challenges that this special ability people is experiencing. So, when we talk about the education, it means to us that any person, young, uh, any gender, any caste, any creed, with any kind of a disability, has an equal opportunity to learn together with anyone who is having liberty and access to any kind of educational institution. Now, this is easy said than done, because it requires a lot of sensitization among the teaching community, among the student community who are not from this category, and then their readiness to accept them and support them and understand their requirements when they are allowed to study along with the other students. It also requires a lot of infrastructural changes. I was in Singapore a couple of years back, and I could see that how that institution had created an inclusive infrastructure for people who were specially abled. For example, people with visual disabilities, or people with physical disabilities. The institution had created an amazing infrastructural support, so that none of the people with the special abilities felt excluded while experiencing or entering into the campus, and they had not to be dependent on anyone. So that was the kind of an autonomous infrastructure that they had created, which I'm sure would have been creating a lot of self-esteem and raising the self-esteem of the students. So it requires a lot of efforts, lot of personal belief of people to provide those inclusive opportunities. It also requires a lot of training of teachers, and sensitizing them on the various steps and methods. It also requires to work on the flexible curriculum, how the curriculum is designed and redesigned and reworked to address their requirements. And it also requires institutions and teachers to work with the parents. So I'm not today going to that side. I'm going to give you a different perspective, which is very, very different, but a very different dimension of inclusivity. And this dimension is a scientifically proven dimension, and it is one of the dimensions that actually leads to various indifferent practices that happen in the teaching community, especially when we are dealing with the uh, students. Most of you who are watching this chart would be familiar with that human body is made of different paired structures. We have got two eyes, two nose, two ears, two lobes of the lungs, two chambers of the heart, two hands, two feet. So human body is largely composed of paired structures. And when we say paired structures, we have also a paired structure in the brain, like a paired structure in the physical body and the biological body. We also have a paired structure in the mental body. And this paired structure gives rise to preferences. And depending upon the paired structure, which of the paired structure is arranged in what way, the paired structure will give rise to certain dominances. And based on the dominance of a paired structure, individual, a student, or an individual will have his decisions for various things: the decisions for learning, the decision for receiving, the decision for acting. So the physiology of this brain has been given an architecture, Like the left brain has been given and the right brain has been given an architecture, which in the modern management psychology we call it a four quadrant brain structure. So, for the purpose of metaphor, we can relate to this four quadrant of brain as blue, green, red, and yellow as the four different quadrants of the brain. So, which means that what I showed you in the brain, the left side, the upper left is your blue, the lower left is your green, the upper right is your yellow, and the lower right is your red. So, this is how you can associate with the metaphor that the physiology of brain has been given, because the research that has gone behind this is by Roger Sperry, one of the renowned brain scientists who did phenomenal surgeries during his time for the epilepsy patients, and found the left brain and the right brain functionalities. And later, Dr. Ned Herman, he worked on the left brain and right brain and came up with a new theory that the left brain has got the upper left and the lower left with two different sets of functions, and the right brain has got two sets of upper right and lower right with two distinct set of functions. Now, this dominance between the paired structure of the brain gives rise to the mental preferences. And depending upon which quadrant of the brain has got developed or is developing, the individual student or individual children will have his preferences or her preferences lying in that quadrant. And where the preferences are high, the student's expectation would be to receive information from that dominant expected brain quadrant. So the two hemispheres control vastly different aspects of thoughts and actions of an individual. And each quadrant has its own specialization, and therefore each quadrant will have its own limitations. Let me show you how it happens. So, a brain which is on the left side, upper left, is more of a fact driven brain. The lower level lobe of the brain is form driven brain. The right upper right is more of the future driven brain, and the lower right is the feeling driven brain. Now, what does it mean? What does this 4F concept mean? This 4F concept means that every individual will have, depending upon his dominance in thinking, where his preferences are lying. If an individual's preferences are lying in upper left, this is also called the cerebral brain, the left cerebral brain. If the left cerebral brain is a dominant brain, the individual will have the preferences for analysis, quantification, mathematics, data, logic, and numbers. So you'll find that this person with the high preference in this quadrant would love to have preference for numbers and data and mathematics and numbers, and that's what this quadrant of the brain would prefer. The lower quadrant of the brain, which is the green quadrant, which is also called the limbic left, the limbic brain. The upper one is called the cerebral brain, the lower one is called the limbic brain. So the limbic left brain is more about being structured brain, being about the more organized brain, being about the more safekeeping brain. So this brain goes by a structure. For example, if you are teaching someone A, B, C, D, E, and if you suddenly jump from A to D, it may confuse the person, because the person is preferring an order. So this brain is more orderly brain. It goes with a specific standard, specific process, and deviation from the process is not what this brain prefers. That's why this brain is also called the safekeeping brain. The lower left, lower right, now it's also the limbic right, is called the empathetic brain. This is the brain where the preferences are more about feeling, where the emotions are stored, where the relationships are born, where the expression, body language, normally which we call all these aspects of human sensitivities are born. So this is more of a feeling self brain. And the upper right is more about the experimental self. It's more about the innovative self brain. It's more about imaginative. So it's more about the abstract brain. It's more about visualization, imagination kind of a brain. It's more about curiosity brain. The more there is hidden thing, the more curious this brain would be. Is so the curiosity always excites this brain. Now, in nutshell, the skull that we have and the brain that is inside the skull has got these four different type of preferences, and each preference has its own expectation. Now look at this whole brain teaching and learning model. If you look at the upper left, which is your uh, cerebral left, it's more about a logical, rational, quantitative, and theoretical brain. So the expectation in this brain is that things are analytical, things are placed in a more logical manner, things are in a theoretical concept are explained. So this is what this kind of brain experience and likes the experience. The lower left experience is more structured and sequential kind of learning. The lower right experience is more of emotive, expressive, and personal and kinesthetic, what we also call, and the upper right is more visual, conceptual, and simultaneous and experimental. The more you give them opportunities to experience new things, is what this kind of brain actually experiences. And each of these brain quadrants will have different learning styles. And the children in the class, when we talk about the inclusivity, the children in the class would have different learning styles. Now, here is where the problem comes in. But before I talk about that, let me also share with you the research also indicates people whose preferences are given shape, they develop careers accordingly as well, which is well researched. When you look at the research of this brain thinking preferences. So if you have a upper left brain, this is how what the individual prefers, and this is what the individual will not prefer. So same goes for this brain where they struggle. A upper left person will struggle with expressing emotions, because this brain is more about logic and number and data, and this person will struggle with expressing emotions. But this person will struggle with lack of logic. If you do not give him a logical statement, the person may struggle to understand. So the person will struggle with vague and precise concepts. So same goes with the lower left, which is the organized brain, structured brain, safekeeping brain. And what frustrates this person is if certain things are ambiguous, if certain things are not clear, directions are not given, the person, the individual, the children, the child may feel a little frustrated in those situations. So A and B are largely called the practical and realistic side of the brain. The right side of the brain, the lower left, the limbic left, is more where it experiences struggle when the too much of information in the form of data is given, when there is lack of personal feedback, when there is lack of interpersonal conversation, when there is lack of discussion, the person may feel frustrated. So pure lectures will really drag this person out. And the upper right, I already mentioned that, is when it's an intuitive brain, it's more experiential brain. The person in this kind of set can get frustrated if we put a time bar And because this person loves to break the barriers, the person loves to experience all the sides, so he doesn't or she doesn't want to follow the rules. They want to go ahead and enter into the uncharted areas. So this is what can frustrate a child in this area. So this quadrant C and D are open minded and flexible kind of brain that we have. So what I want to share with you is, when I talk about these four quadrant brains, it's very important for us to understand that children in the classroom will have different learning styles. And unless teachers are trained and made to understand that the functionality of brain also operates on certain theoretical premises which are proven, and if they don't understand the four different thinking preferences of children, they may sometimes use a single brush to paint the whole canvas. And in that process of using a single brush approach for painting the whole canvas, they may be missing those who are not enjoying that brush, because they are made for a different stroke, a different brush. So inclusivity is another dimension, is to understand the whole brain preferences of children, understanding their different preferences, understanding their different preferences for learning, acting, experiencing, actioning, and based on that, customize your curriculum, create your learning examples, create your activities and classroom work, and that will create a more synchronous class, that will create a more synergistic class, and that will generate better and positive outcomes. And eventually you are giving an individual his or her individuality, because preferences are individuals individuality. And if we are able to address one's needs through his individuality, we are actually letting the real potential of the individual to come out, and eventually giving him to become a perfect person in this world. So with those words, I will stop myself here, and thank you very much for giving me these 15 minutes. I hope whatever I was able to give you in these 15-20 minutes may add a new perspective to inclusion in education as you move forward. Thank you very much, and good luck to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, sir, for such a beautiful presentation. Thank you for sharing your valuable experiences and talking in detail about inclusivity in a holistic perspective. Thank you for taking out your time out of your busy schedule, sir. And we once again thank you for your presence. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
So
Moving forward,
can I log out now, please? Is it okay? Or
yes, sir. Thank you so much for sparing your time, sir.
thank you very much.
Moving forward, I would like to invite our very own Vice Chancellor, Honorable Professor Dr. N.P. Kaushikji, who is an exemplary academician having 35 years of teaching and research experience. Sir is former Vice Chancellor of Rajasthan Technical University and also held key responsibilities at various prestigious institutions. He has been awarded with the Education Excellence Award, Pride of Rajasthan Award, and many more. Sir is an alumnus of IIT Delhi and IIT Roorkee, and overall a great human being who is loved by all. Sir, we look forward to hear from you. Over to you, sir.
Uh, Thank you, Tanu. Chief guest of National Conference on Inclusion in Special Education, Recent Trends and Practices, Professor Raj Nehru ji, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Vishwakarma Skill University, Haryana, Honorable Chancellor Dr. Puneet Goyal ji, Pro Chancellor Dr. Poonam Goyal ji, Pro VC Dr. Ajay Poddar ji, Registrar Vinod Kumar ji, deans of school, convener of conference Dr. Tanu Kukreja and Shikha, dear delegates, faculty members, I welcome you all in this valedictory function of one day conference. It is a matter of great pleasure that we are completing one more important academic and activity today. This is the fourth national conference we have organized today in the OSGU. It is also a matter of great honor and pride for the university that Padam Shri Dr. Uma Tuliji, founder of Amar Jyoti Charitable Trust, a great name in the field of social work, particularly for the especially able children, graced the inaugural function. We also feel elevated by the presence of Miss Ekta Bhyan, a para-Olympian in inaugural function. I express my sincere gratitude and thanks to both of them. We are also fortunate to have Professor Raj Nehru, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Vishwakarma Skill University of Haryana, in this valedictory function, who is the source of inspiration for skilling the youths in the state and all over the country. I am thankful to you, sir, for your gracious presence and a great deliberation on the functionality of our brain and how it can be utilized to decide the strategies for the inclusive education. It is also a matter of great pleasure that today a Center for Vocational Training of Special Children has been established. I congratulate all members of organizing team, conveners of the conference, and faculty of School of Teacher Education for successful organization of this event. I also appreciate the faculty of OSGU for their consistent efforts towards academic enrichment of the university, as we are observing that continuously we are engaged in organizing the various academic activities. It is the nature which makes the deviation in the physical and mental ability of human beings and makes a substantial difference and difficulties in performing routine function or social adjustment for the especially able children or human being. Inclusive education is a very important aspect of our education system, and this becomes more important and when we particularly talk about the education for the especially able children. The aim of inclusive education is to create an environment to ensure that all students are treated fairly and get equal opportunities for the growth. Everyone has access to education without discrimination on the basis of disability or on the basis of race, gender, or even on the basis of household income. Diversity of students in a classroom is the unique feature of inclusive environment of the education. Inclusive growth also means sabka saath, sabka vikas. The inclusive education ensures education for all the children without distinction between ability or disability. And it also ensures to provide opportunity of same level of learning to all students. It is based on the belief that children with or without disabilities will achieve a greater academic excellence in the same classroom. Setting up special education schools with all necessary resources like infrastructure, equipments, and manpower requires huge investment, which is a difficult situation in our country. Therefore, the inclusive education is only a viable solution to this problem. In India, encouragement of education of children with disabilities, their employment, Their involvement in the social activities are the biggest challenge. The solution of the problem is not only the inclusive education, but also essential to have an inclusive ideology for the development of the society. The new education policy has also given the mandate for a global access of education to each and every child of the society. It also mandate identify the abilities of every student and give opportunity to grow. The inclusive education has shown a very positive impact. It has shown improving communication skills, increasing positive peer interaction, many educational outcome and post-school adjustment. Inclusive education has also shown a change of attitude of non-disabled children towards the disabled children. They are found to be more positive towards the disabled children. At present in India, the inclusive education is practically at the initial stage only. Hopefully, in the due course of time, the concept of inclusive education will take a shape in reality and especially able children will get equality and respect in the society. The successful implementation of inclusive education is possible when the normal teacher and teacher trained for special education work together. University has great concern to this aspect, that is especially able children. The OSU is having the School of Teacher Education and producing human resource for the specially able children. The establishment of vocational training center for the children and organizing various activities frequently shows that a spirit and concern to this in this direction and to the specially able children. Once again, I congratulate the organizing team of this one day national conference on inclusion in special education, recent practices and trends. Thank you all and congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your enlightening words, and thanks to you for talking in detail about the need of inclusivity and how do we bring it to the plate. My first, now as we move forward uh, to the end of this session, let me deliver a formal vote of thanks in the capacity of convener of this conference. My first and foremost thanks to Ma Saraswati for her blessings and our chief guest, Dr. Raj Nehruji, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Shri Vishwakarma Skill University, and Padma Shri Dr. Uma Tuliji, founder, Amar Jyoti Charitable Trust, New Delhi, for sparing their precious time and gracing the occasion. My sincere thanks to Honorable Chancellor and Honorable Pro Chancellor Ma'am for not only inspiring but standing beside us in all the thick and thin. My special thanks to Ms. Ekta Bhayan, para athlete India, for her presence during the inauguration ceremony. My humble thanks also goes to our esteemed Vice Chancellor, Dr. N.P. Kaushikji, for his truthful and honest mentorship. My deepest thanks to the strongest pillar of all the academic activities and this conference too, our very own Pro Vice Chancellor, Dr. Adip Podarji. My sincere thanks to you, sir. Thank you for personally taking charge of the conference despite of your very busy schedule. My heartfelt thanks to the conference team from the various departments, Dr. Manbir Singh, Dr. R.S. Sodhi, Dr. Mukesh Yadavji, Dr. Anil Yogi, Dr. Iqbal Shah, Dr. Vikas Bishnoi, Dr. Mr. Harsh Kaushik, Mr. Sumit Chok, Mr. Kulvinder, Mr. Ranjit, Dr. Kavita Chaudhary, Ms. Rekha, Mr. Anil, Ms. Jyoti, Advocate Neeraj Taneja ji, and Mr. Satyavan. My heartfelt thanks to my own team, Mr. Naresh Kumar, Mr. Ravi Shankar, Ms. Shikha, and Mr. Kimat for their continuous support. My sincere thanks to all the colleagues who have helped directly and indirectly, and I would like to specially thank to our helping staff who are always available on our first call. My special thanks to all the participants who joined us today, and my apologies if I miss someone's name. Please accept our sincerest gratitude. With these words, I would like to thank all the dignitaries present here for taking out your precious time, and with your permission, we would like to call it a day now. So,
Okay, thank you.
thank you so much, sir. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.